we are lucky to have him, and he's here with us today. He's going to share some of his expertise in Bluetooth. We, as you may or may not know, Wasilica Lumos Controls, a Wasilica brand, so was started and founded by Dennis Kwan and Suresh Singham-Zeddy in 2013. We are a leader in the Bluetooth mesh network space. And I'm going to let Jonathan take over from here and kind of guide you through what's new and where we're going and what's great about the BLE system that we put together. Jonathan, take it away.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So as Michael was saying, we were established in 2013. Our headquarters are in California, and we have partners and installations all over the world, from museums, offices, warehouses, and restaurants. So we're in all different kinds of spaces. Just every country, we're there. So we've been doing Bluetooth since 2013. Our first project was not actually in the lighting space. We started with a museum, or not a museum, a hospital in New Zealand, where their infants were actually being taken from the nursery. And Ysilica was able to give a solution to that, where we gave the infants wristbands, Bluetooth wristbands, and installed listeners in the nursery, so that when these infants were taken away without the nurse's knowledge, without security's knowledge, alarms will go off and everything will get locked down. So this is kind of what we started with, and we've built this Bluetooth mesh up, and now we've added our Lumos controls to our Bluetooth mesh. So what is Bluetooth mesh? Bluetooth mesh uses Bluetooth low energy to expand the wireless network and allow hundreds or thousands of devices to communicate with each other. This means that these devices actually talk to each other. It doesn't have to have a central hub. These devices don't need a constant connection to each other. They just talk to each other, send a message, send and receive messages and commands when needed, so that the environment isn't actually just a bunch of Bluetooth messages over and over. Bluetooth low energy advertises through 40 channels on the 2.4 gigahertz band. Some of you might have heard of the 5G fears, how it's gonna take our brains over and all that kind of stuff. We're on 2.4 gigahertz, so you don't have anything to fear from that. But for commissioning and over-the-air updates, we do have a prolonged connection there. So we use something called adaptive frequency hopping. And adaptive frequency hopping is when two Bluetooth devices monitor the Bluetooth traffic in the air, and they switch the band that they're on to a less busy one, so that the connection is secure and that everything is okay. And of course, Bluetooth low energy, being called Bluetooth low energy, uses very little power. The sleep current is actually 1.5 microamps in the Bluetooth chips we use. So it's useful for remotes that require batteries or other things that don't need AC power. Why do you use Bluetooth mesh? Well, Bluetooth mesh allows for two-way communication. So we can send and receive messages, which includes energy consumption data, occupancy data, motion detection data, and we can gather all this data to the cloud and send it to the cloud, where we can show graphs, we can show what areas are being occupied more than others. We can show when the lights are on or off. If someone's getting off work early, taking a break for 2 hours, not in the office, we can show your boss's data and get them to work harder and all that good stuff. You can save on installation costs. Most of our devices are AC powered. So you just need to run AC power to these devices during installation, and you don't need wires from like a wall switch going all the way to the controller in the ceiling. You just need AC power to that wall switch and AC power to the controller in the ceiling. And you can use our app to commission and configure these devices together. And it's as easy as that, just AC powered wires. Easily scalable. If any of your clients wants to add a device later on, like a year later, they want to add another switch, we can just commission the switch, install it into the wall, and it'll work seamlessly like it was there the whole time. No centralized hub. So since it is a Bluetooth mesh, all the devices talk to each other. There doesn't need to be a central brain that gives everything instructions, which makes it a lot easier to install. You don't need to worry about, hey, is this device on the very edge of the building in range of a central hub? Nope, it doesn't matter. And we're able to actually track 16 million devices in a single login. So if you have like a campus, college campus with a lot of lights and a lot of devices, you can actually see the status of all these devices on our web UI, make sure everything's working, see basically all the information, all the energy consumption data for that. While in traditional just wired methods, you won't be able to see any of this data. You don't know if a light in a closet in the corner of the campus is working or not. We're able to track all that. So this is just a simple depiction of our installation. You can see two controllers in blue. They just need AC power connected to the lights. And then you have a sensor in the middle of the room. You don't need to wire those two together. You just need to power them and they'll work together if you want them to. If you don't want them to work together, you can also choose that. It's all controlled through our app. This is a similar picture where you can see a sensor and a switch just being powered through AC power, and one of our room controllers just AC power as well. And there's no wires connecting the switch, the sensor, or the controller together. So the most common question I usually get is, what's the range of our Bluetooth? A lot of people are scared of that, and honestly, it just depends. It depends on the environment, the materials around our controllers, where it's being installed. So these are kind of some of the materials that inhibit Bluetooth transmission. Metal, concrete, plaster, brick. They will dampen the Bluetooth signal, but it's not a big deal unless our controllers are fully encased into concrete. Yeah. But since it is a mesh, our devices can relay signals and hop to one another. Hopping is when one device relays a message from a previous device to a new one. So we can kind of chain the message together, as you can see here, switch at the very end, and it's trying to talk to the controller on the very right. The message can actually go from one to another, to another, to another, up to 5 times. So our Bluetooth mesh is very secure. Some of you might have security concerns. All of our Bluetooth messages are encrypted with AES 128 encryption, which means that each device has a private and public key to decrypt these messages. And also each one of our devices has a unique ID. So after it decrypts the message and notices, oh, this isn't meant for me, it'll just pass that message along and not actually do the command of whether it's like on or off. Each command also has its own sequence number. So if you're thinking, hey, how come these devices don't just dim over and over if the command to dim is in the atmosphere? It's because we have something called a sequence number. So each command has its own number. And if the number is lower than the previous one, then it won't respond. So all of our devices are end-to-end encrypted from the app to our devices to our cloud. We have been globally validated as a DLC NLCS cybersecurity ready system. So we have had third parties look at our Bluetooth mesh and made sure it's secure, it's certified, it's good to go. And all of our data is encrypted, whether it's a command from the app or a command from the switch or the sensor. All of that stuff is AES 128 encrypted, and only the devices that are supposed to listen to that command will react because of those unique IDs. So what makes us better than competition? We do have a lot of different options. We have everything from switches to controllers to sensors, with our own web UI interface for analytical reports. You can scale our Bluetooth mesh at any time. You can do one building in a campus, install one building in a campus, wait a year later and install another one, and they'll be compatible. They'll work together on the same system. We do have emergency lighting automation. So if we use one of our dolly controllers, you can actually automate the emergency lighting testing and have reports exported from our web UI showing that this light is okay, these lights, the emergency battery needs to be changed out, and all that stuff. We do have BMS and OpenADR integration, where you can control our lights using your BMS system, and see our reports and all that stuff. So our smart lighting journey, our system is very flexible. You can go from something very simple, like a switch on the wall and a controller in the ceiling, to automated lighting with sensors, daylight harvesting, occupancy sensing. You could add a gateway to the system, which allows cloud access. And now you can see our energy reports, our occupancy reports, and do remote operations. We can also integrate to your BMS system, ADR response, environmental sensors. And as I was saying before with our Bluetooth mesh, we do have Silica has other products available, such as real-time tracking solutions, smart workspace management. So since all of these Bluetooth devices are in the ceiling already for real-time tracking, we can just add a Bluetooth tag, kind of like Apple AirTag, and we can use the infrastructure created by these light controllers in your building as listeners, and we can track where this tag is in your building, depending on how close to the light they are. So that's something we do provide that other people don't, and it's kind of looking forward to the future. And you can add this feature at any time. We just need to enable it on the back end, and you don't need to install something new or anything. You just need the Bluetooth tags. And here is our bread and butter, our mobile app. We basically use it for everything, from configuring all our devices to controlling our devices to commissioning to automating all our devices. So the Bluetooth app is free. It's on the Play Store. It's on the App Store. Setting up an account is free. So once you get one of our devices, you can play around with it using our app. And yeah, this is what we use for everything. And here are our lighting products. I'm going to give it over to Michael, and he can explain all of our products.
Hey, thanks. You know, most of you have seen what the products that we have. Just a real quick piece on our security systems. Look, to be frank, Frank's not here, is he? Because I'm going to take his persona just for a moment. But look, the security level is dictated in a particular at a company by the IT department, and if their IT department says that they're not going to allow our system, no matter the security measures that we have taken, run on their network, then drop-in networks are the only way through. And for those kinds of companies, the extra costs that are associated with that is not going to drive them off. We're already a value engineered a control package compared to the rest of the field at the same level, meaning that a professional, excuse me, a professional grade network lighting control system such as ours. The additional costs are minuscule compared to the added security that a drop-in network. That means bringing in a cellular router, such as Cradlepoint, dropping that in as the main point of entry for the web UI and the devices down below. That's a real solution that offers absolute security for your customers. So that's a really great way to go about. Um, and if you need help in that arena, just let me know. We're glad to help out and assist to get you the connections to that kind of product line. As you know, we've got LLLC devices, so luminaire level lighting control. That would be the Radiar AF10, even the Radiar AFD1 is really meant for, you know, a single to 4 drivers. I think is the AFD1 to 4. I don't do a lot of Dolly in the United States. However, for those of you coming in from Europe and other areas where Dolly is your primary interface, that's great. We, you know, as you know, we have up to a 32-piece interface. So great thing about using Lumos as your primary interface is that you can combine 0 to 10 volt with Dolly. And we're one of the few ecosystems that offers that kind of flexibility. AF10s are fantastic at the light level. And one of my favorite solutions is to have every light with one of our AF10s and then having a zone occupancy daylight harvesting. So here in California, of course, we have Title 24, which many other states have really kind of adopted or have made their own version of. New York's a great example of that. And so having an AF10 in each individual light allows you to separate the lights into zones depending on where they are located within a primary zone. So an office space may have daylight and secondary daylight zones, and being able to control those lights only within that zone, it becomes really simple when you have an AF10 in each one of those fixtures. Also, you can create your own zones out in a warehouse when you have an AF10 in every high bay, so that you don't necessarily have to turn on the entire warehouse. You can turn on just sections where the zone has been activated, where motion has been recorded, and we can move forward that way. Now, as you know, the AF10 is a dual channel. So if your fixture that you're putting in or installing is 0 to 10 volt dimming and 0 to 10 volt tuning, then we can, in cases like hospital or healthcare centers, we can actually tune and dim and run the circadian rhythm through our app, which of course is really highly functional. And when it just sets up in default mode, it's very practical and one that we take a lot of care and time to develop. But of course, later on, that may not meet the needs of your clients. They may wish to extend or expand, and we'll rely on you as our integrators to help them get through that process. And of course, pairing, commissioning, and rolling out a network lighting control system is a great profit maker for our rep agencies. This is a way to, number one, really retain the relationship at the end user level. Number two, to ensure that the high level systems that we build and engineer are being utilized at their maximum potential. Then of course we have zone. So that's why we recommend that you learn the next couple of series where we're going to show you how to pair, how to set up, how to do project management 101, how we do the login and create the rooms and zones first. Then we begin the pairing process and how that all plays out to things like occupancy sensor. What does it do after 10 minutes, and what does it do after 20 minutes, and what does it do when daylight's shining in, and all those settings that are available. The different fixture structures. We'll go through that in series to come. The AR10, of course, is a great dual channel zone controller with a 16 amp rated relay, meaning it's got a 20 amp relay, but you can't use more than 16 amps. It's a 80-20 rule, or the 75-25 rule in this case. Oh no, it's an 80-20 rule. Sorry, I don't know where my math is. It's gone with my coffee, I think. We have the single channel. If you don't have the need for a second dimming channel, sometimes a great way to utilize that second dimming channel is to use it for up-down dimming. So you have a linear fixture. It has up-down lighting. It's a great way to use that second channel to control the dimming. Even though it says it is tuning, we can, because it's 0 to 10, we could actually dim the top and the bottom lighting. Of course, single channel for those applications where we don't need any tuning or secondary tuning channel. The long-awaited phase dimming solution that we brought to the market, OmniTen, is now available for those of you who have been waiting for that. And the FD1 is a great DALI interface for the emergency, for the United States, for the emergency battery backup solution. And if you haven't seen what the DALI solution looks like in that case, it's actually, it reports everything that happens within the emergency battery cycle. So for instance, it is required that once a month, 30 seconds, you test the batteries for 30 seconds to see that they come on, they stay on, and they are lit according to Hoyle, and provide the amount of light that each battery is supposed to provide. And then you're supposed to document that and move along. And of course, going throughout a facility, it could take, a half an hour, it could take hours, depending on the complexity or the number of batteries within the facility. The more batteries that are there, of course, the greater return on investment there is for your clients in establishing the emergency battery backup. Because if you're taking away a major component of labor and you're getting an absolute 100% accurate assessment of what the state of their emergency lighting is, why you can't buy that. People are fallible, but the system, it can report that it turned on for 30 seconds. It can report that it either failed or passed. It then saves that report and is always available for safety, whatever safety entity comes in demanding to see that you've been, your end user has been taking the proper care of the emergency lighting system. And once a year, it will turn off, instead of having to make it a huge event on a Sunday when nobody's around, and turning off the power to the building and running around then to see that every light stayed on for 90 minutes. Who can do that and really write an accurate report? That's pretty hard. And yet our system is able to take and then return the status of all lights with a battery within that facility, and the report will be 100% accurate. It will notify folks that this battery is not working, that battery is great. And the reports are always available, as I mentioned, so that when safety inspectors come, your end users do not need to be embarrassed, nor worry about paying large fines in the event that it didn't come. So moving on to the next set, we've got zone sensors. As you know, our sensors are dual sensors. They sense vacancy, occupancy, and daylight harvesting, so they can read the daylight and tell our controllers accordingly where the dimming should be at any given moment, assuming they're in a daylight zone. If they're not, they tell the controller that it's been 10 minutes and nobody has moved, go ahead and start the dimming process, and then they go 50% down and 50% off, 50% after another 10 minutes, and they're off. That's great for lunchtime and saves a lot of energy. Overall, the U.S. Energy Star and several other entities have found that controls can save anywhere from 10 to 90% on their lighting costs, depending on the extreme, just depending on how extreme have their behaviors been. So. And as I think you guys saw my chat earlier, that we're going to answer questions at the end. We've got switches. We've got a whole bunch of new switches, and we have a really terrific and elegant solution for switches that don't really, if you can't find one that you like, the elegant solution and the elegant way to get around that and still work with our ecosystem, but use somebody else's switches to get the K-Tron AI. Man, that thing is really fantastic. It takes anybody's switch, whether it's old school, new school, you can then turn it into a dimming on-off switch that works in our Bluetooth mesh network and is controlled through via our app and via the cloud. So it's a great solution. If some of our switches you see, we've got now an 8-button switch, we've got dimming switches, we have occupancy sensor switches, 4-button scene selectors, 8-button scene selectors, kinetic switches. So for those that require low voltage solutions or no voltage solutions, in those cases, there's absolutely no wires. It's kind of like Pinocchio. Look, no strings to tie me down. K-Tron 5. That's a battery powered solution, and one that is really for your value customers. That's the one. You know, it's a very low price and one that we've got, you know, a ton of product available for you. Really quick turnaround times. And I think that brings us to the end of products. And I think that at this point, Jonathan, I think there's a few questions that are, oh, there's a gateway. How could I forget the gateway? The gateway is the primary timekeeping piece. So it absolutely is necessary where schedules are required. And we see that all the time in the submittals that we are given in the architectural plans and engineering call-outs. The time schedules are important and required within that for a given project. So if that's the case, the eNOR-E has a battery backup built in with a real-time clock built in. So it will, number one, in a power failure, it will maintain the time schedule. And it won't forget. And then when the power does come back on, it reminds everybody else of what time it is. They know they've got a schedule. They just don't know what time it is anymore. They think it's 12 o'clock midnight always whenever they come back online. So the eNOR-E will remind them of it. It's really 6 a.m., not 12. And beyond that, it will also be the connection point to the aggregator for things like BMS integration, ADR 2.0, and to the to drop-in networks. It will be the primary aggregator to feed a cradle point rollover technology, for example. And I say cradle point because it's one of the primary. My friends all work in high levels in the California state. In state positions, and the fire department, for example, Cal Fire, they use Cradle Point regularly. It is a great solution, one that has been vetted and has a lot of power and is very secure. So, anyways, I don't get paid by Cradle Point. It's important to note that. Just want to give you guys some really rock solid solutions that you won't be disappointed in. Anyways, that's it. Not required for regular Bluetooth mesh networks. I see that was placed in there for my probably for my benefit. You know the customer order and fulfillment process. You send us a PO. From here forward, if you guys are online here, if you could send it to US orders at Lumos Controls, any POs that you're sending in to us, I love getting them personally because then I get to chant your name in the hallways and scream to the heavens that you know thank you for the order, right? However, if you send it to US orders at lumoscontrols.com, everybody will see it, and that will we can all let out a big Yahoo at the same time and really celebrate with you on the order. So the whole idea, of course, behind us helping in the order and fulfillment process, Jonathan does a great job, and I just want to thank Jonathan for all of his hard work. As it goes, when he has to program everything, get that out to the UPS or the FedEx driver, and get it on time to your end users. Why that's a process. If you haven't been through it, man, I invite you to come and volunteer some time with Jonathan over for a day and just see what his life is like. So that's that. And specification process, if you've got a job that requires a high level submittal, please send it to US specifications at Lumos Control or U.S. specifications. So it's not quite U.S. specifications, but it's U specifications at lumoscontrols.com. We're going to get it back to you in a couple of days. Oftentimes, sometimes the more complex ones may take us up to a week. So if it's a really high levels, 18 floor, multifamily with lots of moving parts, or 16 buildings in at a college, or at a large scale manufacturing facility, expect us to ask questions and expect some delays. But if it's just a simple, regular retail store and that's what you need, just let us know. Now, one of the nice things about getting things like a simple retail store is if you use the BOM generator, you may not need our submittals unless the engineer and the architecture firms are requiring it as a way for them to vet the system prior to signing off on it and approving it for the project. If it's an electrician who's come to you and they just want, for a job, a simple system or an NLCS system, there's a lot of rebates out now, folks, in Chicago, New York, Seattle, California, for a network lighting control system. There's a lot of rebates now. Let's run them straight to the distributor and get the distributor a login and create let them create a BOM so that can take a lot off your plate and help you to make vending machine money while you're off working on some of the other projects. It's not to take the interaction away from you in working with the distributors, but enabling and empowering them to make more money with our products. That's really what this is all about, is to build and nurture the relationship at the distribution level enough so that they feel comfortable doing their own submittals or in creating and generating their own BOMs. The guy at the counter is your biggest asset in that area. So let's empower them. If you want to have us put together, for example, going forward, these webinars, this series of webinars that we're going to hold throughout this year, we are really looking forward to having your distributors and their electricians show up, so that we can empower and educate and allow them to become semi-autonomous. Of course, we can't do anything without our wonderful representatives out there, but the fact is we do want to help everyone be successful, and we want to make sure that they're empowered enough so that they feel comfortable in creating and commissioning and really taking full advantage of our really terrific high-end system. And that does it. I'm going to give it back to Jonathan. We'll begin answering the questions. I see a ton of them that came through. Well, a ton of them. That's not quite true. We've got 3 questions that came through. I want to thank you guys for showing up. I know it's the middle of the day for many of you. And hey, donuts on me next time.
Yeah, so we have a few questions. The max hop distance to the furthest hop point. So each hop is around 100 feet max in like the most ideal situation, like open air, line of sight, and all that. So if it's 5 hops, that'll make it 500 feet. So that's 500 feet from the switch to the controller that you want to control. Yeah. The next question is, would the radar be equivalent to an EM zone sensing unit? So we do have, let me go back here to the, right here. So the AR10 and the PSC 450 are zone controllers. For EM, we do have a separate device. It's called an RIB from Functional Devices, and you're able to add this device into the EM system, where the EM line connects to the RIB and the normal line also connects to the RIB, and you can control both EM and normal lights using one of our PSC 450s or room controllers. And if the building power goes off, the RIB will ensure that the EM powers the emergency lights only, and then the normal lights will stay off because, of course, they have no power. But also the EM lights will be at 100%. Yeah. that answers your question. Last question. If we have wireless communication between switches, dimmers, and the load controllers, why do we need AC power for the switches? Our switches are just AC powered. We do have some other switches as well. So all these switches are AC powered. So that's how you power them. We do have kinetic switches or battery switches. And yes, you're just powering the load controller that's connected to the luminaire. And yeah, that's just for powering up the light itself. So there's no line, there's no communication line between the switch and the controller. They just need power.
Yeah, the old school way of doing that was actually to have a relay built in or a contactor built into the switch, and the AC was provided there at that point because they could turn it on and off, and they didn't actually go up into the ceiling. So if you look at it, the power comes in to the room from the ground, most likely, up into the wall, the gang box first, then up into the ceiling, and the first distribution box or the branch circuit junction box is where our controllers go. These 4 switches that use AC power are programmable, and so using AC power to power those is an easy way for us to energize our Bluetooth chipset. So there's a computer. There are small computers inside those switches, and that's why we use AC power. Now, a low voltage version of those will be coming to a theater near you. It's just not ready yet. So.
And one more question. What about vendor neutrality and NLC profiles and accepting future devices in 5 years, say, that fit these profiles?
Well, vendor neutrality and NLC profile. So if you're asking, do I think that vendor neutrality? So right now, as it sits, if you're working with an N-Light system, it's an N-Light system. If it's a Enlighted system, that's an Enlighted system. There's no vendor neutrality in that. Those are all proprietary systems that work autonomously. Now, we have tried to create some autonomy or neutrality. Switch interface, for instance, the Catron AI, and because we can control what inputs we take, we will have some network lighting control profiles and accepting future devices in the future. Yes, we are.
Michael,
we're not necessarily proponents of that, but we are. We definitely want to have products and future devices that are ready to play in space. So
yeah, the reason why our mesh network only works for our devices is because of this unique ID. We also have a manufacturer ID, so each manufacturer has their own ID that's unique to themselves, and it only works with their system. There is a SIG mesh out there that's open source, but there are a lot of security concerns with SIG mesh. And our devices, we can enable them with some development to work with SIG mesh, but really right now the market doesn't really call for it. But yeah, the reason why it's not operating with other people is because of our unique IDs and our security. Next question, will all the switches also act as a hopping point? Not all the switches will. For instance, if I go to the switches.
the kinetic, I'm thinking right away, they don't.
The kinetic switch, since it is powered just by you pushing the button, it's not being constantly powered. These are very simple devices that just sends out the Bluetooth message when the switch is pressed. So these switches do not really act a part of the mesh.
Permissions are set within the application, by the way, much like a CRM permission set. So you create a new login for somebody, you give them permissions, and then they log in accordingly. They don't log in onto the admin. admin cycle. So yes,
Yeah.
you can give different rooms different permissions by giving them unique logins for each room.
And you can give them
And
permissions to be able to change the configuration or just for operating the devices.
yeah, absolutely. And yes, the current hardware can be firmware updated. There's a couple of different ways to do that. The primary solution is line of sight and through the app. But if they have adopted the our NRE and an internet connectivity, we can then do it from the cloud down to the at night, for example, is a great time to do this. While everybody's at home, it could be updating the firmware as needed. So when we push out an update to our firmware that we believe is mission critical, we'll notify everyone, and we'll have those that do have well, we'll notify those that are affected, and those that do have an internet connectivity. It's an easy way for you to initiate that.
Yeah. If that is all the questions, going once, twice. All right, so we
Yeah.
do have another webinar set up in I think 2 weeks on the 15th of February, just going through building management, user management, and how to actually commission and configure our devices. This is more of a hands-on one. And yeah, I'll just be showing you how easy it is to use our system. Yeah.
Hey,
No one
before we
else is.
go, can I grab control for a second of sharing content?
Yeah.
I'm going to share my entire screen.
Yeah.
And the reason I want to do this is because at all right, here is we've made some changes in case you guys haven't been to our place, to our website recently. Go to resources. We have a whole slew of new features and new things, including updated data sheets that used to be Justin, Jonathan, and myself. They were passing those out, but now you can get them all for yourselves, and they'll be up to date. There are wiring diagrams, there are installation guides, there are videos. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Lumos Controls at YouTube. We have Bluebeam toolboxes for those of you who are doing your own submittals, CAD downloads for our engineering and architectural partners. And if you need a U.S. specifications book to help with specifications, please let us know. We do have we have a U.S. specifications book, which will be updated as needed. We have the BOM generator, as we talked about, and we have our solution sheets for applications that we have already been working through. So I thank you, Jonathan, for letting me take the boat there for a second. And back to you.
Yeah. I think that's it. If no one has any other questions, we can end it for now. And thank you everyone for joining.
Thanks,
Have a great
Jonathan.
day.
All right. Take care, everybody.